Okay, as you know from our previous recording, I have a 1994 Honda Civic with 93,000 miles on the odometer. Those are original miles, yep, 93,000 on a 1994. You heard right. This car, in its current condition, we'll take a walk around. It's seen its better days. There's some surface rust on one of the fenders and the clear coats kind of chipping off. It has the original wheel covers. Those are brand new tires, Cooper tires. About 60,000 mile tires on them. Brand new brakes all the way around. Their wheel cylinders have been replaced. You can see some of the rubber moldings are starting to show their age. This is obviously a different colored door because somebody, as I had it parked out on the street, decided to back up into the door. They got part of the rear quarter panel, and unfortunately it exposed a tiny rust hole down there. That alone, because of the way this car is built, this whole side of the car, from about this quarter panel here, down the door, all the way around the back corner to about the middle of the trunk, has to be replaced. That part alone is $900. That's without paint, and that's without the labor to install it. So the car's worth, if it was in good shape, probably around $1,200, $1,500 with the low mileage on it. So, I mean, that one repair alone, not including the door, paint, everything, was pretty much over that total. So, I wasn't going to total the car for that much, so I said, okay, forget that. I'll just put a new door on it and call it even Stevens. So, that's why we have that. There you go. Paint, starting to fade because it's old paint. It's been sitting for a while. Unfortunately, I can't keep this thing anymore. But it is the LX model. It has the 103 horsepower engine in it. It has power options, power locks, power doors, power mirrors, ABS, airbag, front wheel drive. You can see the engine bay here. There's the fender. You can see the front bumper. Yep, starting to fade a little bit too. But the battery had been dead since it'd been sitting a while. In my previous video, you saw me trickle charging it up. And now it's time to put it in the car. And I have done that. I've connected it, tightened everything down. I am not thinking this battery has enough oomph in it to get the car started. But we're going to go ahead, turn the key, and find out. I'm not holding out my hopes high, but here we go. Let's hop in there. There's my steering wheel cover. You can see the odometer. 92,727 miles. Those are original. That's not 109,000. Or 192,000. That's 92,000 original miles. We can hear beep, which I wasn't hearing before. Does it have enough juice? Absolutely not. We're not hearing even a crank. So, you will see in the distance here, I brought a friend along, which is a Toyota Camry, and some jumper cables to help give this thing a little bit extra oomph to go ahead and turn over. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, hook up the jumper cables, start both cars up, hopefully. Or at least start up the Camry. Be right back. Okay, while I'm thinking of it, maybe you haven't jump-started a car before. If you haven't, this is some useful advice for you on how to jump a car. Maybe you got a friend that's got a disabled car, battery, maybe they left their headlights on or something, drain the battery, it won't start. But these are some very important tips for you to remember. Make sure you're on a safe part of the road, preferably off the road, maybe in a parking lot somewhere would be great. Try to figure out where the batteries are in your car, because each car is different. If you can see in my car, my battery's up back behind the firewall there, or up next to the firewall, and in this car, it's right up front, but on the opposite side of the car. So head-to-head makes sense because usually jumper cables aren't all that long. Generally, the longer the wire, the more the resistance there is on the wires. So whenever you want something to carry a nice hefty charge, you don't want the mile-long version of a wire. So what you want to do first is on the car you're going to charge with, battery cables, jumper cables are going to have a negative and a positive. Well, negatives are usually black. Positives are going to be probably a red color or an orange color. But you want to go negative side first. And if you look on the battery, you'll see which negative terminal is. It's a minus sign. So you hook up the negative on the charging car's battery first. Then you go and take the negative for the car you're going to charge. And you hook up that negative clamp to that negative terminal. Like so. Then on the charging car, you hook up the positive terminal to the positive cable. And then the positive cable on the car you're going to jump. Be careful, because if everything's working right, you will start seeing a little bit of sparks. There you go. That means you know you've got a good connection. You start up your car that you're going to jump with. You let it run for a little while first. Let it idle for a bit. Because you're taking some of that juice out of the charging car's battery and donating it to the car you're going to jump with, or jump to, rather. So you want to build up a little bit of the battery juice first. Let it run for a little while. It only takes a couple minutes. Maybe not even that long, but you just don't want to jump one car, start one car, and then immediately start the other one if you got a two-people job. Let it run for a little while. And we're going to hop back over to the poor little Honda Civic. We've seen better days, and I'm trying to give it a brand new home. Hopefully somebody else that can take care of it and love it and give it the care it needs, because this thing will run forever. All right. Good news, we're hearing that. The dome light is now on. Let's go, girl. Come on. There she is. That's all it took. It just needed that little extra oomph. And you can probably hear that the girl needs a muffler. Sounds like a race car. And then once you get the car started, you're going to leave that connected for a little bit. Let both cars run. Because again, you're charging up that battery, that's dead one. Trying to give it some juice, give it some life. Because the last thing you want to do, drive this thing down the road, have the battery conk out for you. Or, you know, pull off at the side of the road. Maybe you need to get some gas. And then you're stuck at the gas station. As you can see, all the running lights are working on the car. Brake lights work. You can hear that all exhaust maybe. It should be a lot quieter than that, but I know she's got an exhaust problem, and the person that's coming to take a look at this car also knows it has an exhaust problem. I let them know. It's like, you know, I'm honest. The car, you know, is pretty much good to go. What you see is what you get with the body. It's seen better days. But brand new tires. I mean, look at these tires. Look at the tread on those. Those are fairly new. I bet they don't even have 100 miles on them. Because basically what I was getting ready to do is get this car to put back on the road again and drive it back and forth to work. Unfortunately, I had a health issue, a pretty major one, creep up on me, and it just became, insurance became too much to keep this thing on the road. There's other cars that I have. I would have liked to keep this one. It's been good to me. It's been a good car. It's going to be a great car for somebody else to drive, or somebody just wants to do an engine swap on it. That engine is going to last forever. I've kept this thing mechanically safe and sound, and I was getting ready to get the, you know, the body done, throw some paint on it, take out some of the rust, repair some things, but, you know, life generally dictates what you're going to do instead, and I just never got around to it. So hopefully somebody else that has the time and the resources can get this thing back to where she needs to be, because like I said, this thing's got a lot of life back in it. You can see the interior still in fairly good shape. Let me go ahead and unlock all the doors while I'm thinking of it. I'm giving you an interior view. This door panel can be easily replaced. You can get one in a junkyard for like 20 bucks, if that. There's the back door. You can see the interior's been kept in nice shape. I do have the factory floor mats. I have taken them out and replaced them with replacements, but I do have the factory ones to give the person who would like it. I can even give them a free ice scraper and an umbrella if they'd like. Yeah, power mirrors. Let's get the AC running. AC still works great in this car. It's fully charged. I showed you how to fix an AC system in a previous video. And the reason why I know how to do that is because I've had to recharge it in this poor car twice in its life because it's so old. I mean, it's a 1994. Technically an antique now. So, I have mixed emotions on this car. Getting rid of it. Number one, I'm sad because it's been a great car to me. I wish I could keep it. I would love to keep this car and just ride it until it dies, which would be probably last most of my life. On the second hand, I know I can't do that. My current life situation just won't allow it. And I'd be happy knowing that this car is going into other hands that could at least keep this car alive in some respects. Maybe get some usage out of it. Maybe some college kid out there needs a good car, needs a dependable first car. for a couple $100 you could get this thing back on the road running again, especially if it's another mechanic that can weld another muffler on this thing. That's essentially what it needs to pass inspection, patch up that hole with some Bondo, and you can get this car on the road for cheap. And insurance rates are going to be incredibly cheap for this thing. And these old Hondas, these old engines are pretty much bulletproof. You should change the oil in them every 3,000 miles. If you skip one here and there, because sometimes you forget, this one will take that. It won't. It might not. You might want to baby it now that it's older, but you know, older Toyotas, older Hondas. If you missed an oil change here and there, it would be okay. If you did that with other cars, it would be catastrophic. But the main thing is, don't run these things out of oil. You don't want to do that. Let's check the power windows. One common thing that falls apart on these cars are the window, not the motors themselves, but the, I forget what they call it, but the mounts, the mounting brackets that the windows slide up and down on. I've had both of those in this car break, because in this model year, they were notorious for breaking. I have replaced them with the previous generation's support moldings, I guess. I don't know what other units. And they are the ones that held up forever. So these should never break in the history of the car, ever. You can see the motors work just fine. It's got cruise control, power mirrors on the left and right. Let's take a look at those. There's that one working. Don't know how well you can see that, but yeah, she's working. There you go. You can see the reflection in the mirror. She's working. One on the right-hand side. A little dirty, but she's working too. Emergency blinkers. Window defroster. She's working. Left turning signal. Right turning signal. AC's on. Cool. Full blast. It's about as hot as this one blows on fresh air. There she goes. Yep. Cold air coming out of her. Radio. I don't really use it that much. 4 gears. Torque converter, not overdrive. Important to remember on this one. Emergency brake. Glove box. There's all my repair service notices. I have more of that in a box in the trunk. I have all the repair service paperwork on this car, so you can tell that I'm not lying when I say I put tires on this thing. I put mufflers on this thing every time it's passed emissions. So there you go. The history with this car is well documented, so you can show, I can show everything that I've said I've done with this car. I have right there in all the paperwork. So yeah, I'm just going to let her run for a while, let her charge up that battery, and I'm going to disconnect the Camry and just let this thing run on its own power for a while. So when you are disconnecting a charging unit, you want to disconnect the positive terminal first from one car, and then do the positive on the other, then the negative on one, and the negative on the other. And then you want to roll up your cables, put them away for safekeeping, and there you go. That's pretty much it. Now, the charging car doesn't need to be running anymore, so we can put her back away. And the charged up car, you're going to want to run that thing for a while if you can. Take it for a ride. Let alternator charge up that battery for a while, because it's not going to have a whole lot of juice in it. You just gave it enough to crank over. It's got to charge itself back up now and see if it can get enough amps in it to crank over on its own power. Hopefully, when I come test this thing next time, it'll start on its own. And that's pretty much it. The old Civic rises again. And hopefully, you know, when the guy takes a look at it, I wanted to prove to him that it could start and run, because like, you can hear how quiet that engine is. With that age, this mileage on it, she's purring like a kitten. The only other thing would be, you know, I got another car running in the background. So let me shut that one off. And there's a third car that pulled up in the driveway. So, only 1/3 of the noise you're hearing is that Civic. And most of what you're hearing there is the exhaust noise, but here's the engine bay. That's with the air conditioner running and everything. Pretty quiet. The only thing you're going to hear again is that exhaust note, which is way off, because there's definitely a bad muffler on this bad boy. Civic LX. Been a great car. I don't want to see her go, but like I said, if she can get a happy home with a new family that can take care of her, get her running again, I don't want to see this thing rust into pieces. That's what this car is currently getting ready to do. You can see some surface rust, the paint fading. And without some TLC soon, she's just going to fall apart, and she doesn't deserve that. Been a great car. So that's it from Ben's Repairs. I didn't really repair much of this car. Basically, I just trickle charged up the battery to hopefully get enough charge in it, as opposed to a completely dead battery, to get enough life in it to crank it over with a jump. That's exactly what happened. She's running again. I'm going to let her run. She doesn't have tags on her, so technically I shouldn't take her out for a run, but I might do so anyway. Shh, don't tell anybody. I won't record that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see you next time. Hopefully I'll have some good news sending her to a new home. We'll see. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, showed you how to jump start a car if you've never done so before. You need to help out somebody that's disabled on the side of the road, or you got a good friend, or maybe your own car breaks down. You'll know what to do. Jumper cables, a good set of them. They're not all that expensive. And if you're a newer driver and you're like me, I mean, cars now have auto shut-off headlights. That wasn't a thing back in my day when I started driving, and I left my headlights on all the time. It was just a thing. So much so that I bought a portable jumper of my own that you don't need another car. It's basically a marine battery with jumper cables, and it'll give you a few jumps out of it, and you can recharge them. So that was a good investment, because it saved me numerous times. And then when I had a niece that was getting ready to start driving on her own, she did the same thing I did, so I donated the portable jumper to her, and it saved her butt a few times as well. So that's two ways to go about it, but the process would be the same. You know, make sure you do not cross the polarities of the batteries, negative to negative, positive to positive. If you do the reverse, you could reverse the polarity of your battery and completely mess it up. So it's definitely important. That's why most batteries, you can see here, are marked giant plus signs and red symbols for the positive side, big old negative sides, and no cover on the negative side, or black cover usually. And there you go. So you all take care. We'll see you next time here on Ben's Corner, and I'll give you some updates on the Honda and see what happens with her. All right?